Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is me, Jonathan Alexander, and I'm here to host our show, Life, Laughter, Happiness. Today, I have my co-host, Barbara. Are you there, Barbara?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Now, today what we're doing is we're having one of our listeners on. He's a big listener of ours. His name is Paul Fowler, and so let me see if we got some things right. You were in the Coast Guard from 1975 to 1997.
That's
22
right.
years.
Oh,
22
hold
years.
on, Johnny. Johnny, before we just get right into what Paul does, I would like to add to his welcome, please. Okay. Hi, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. And how are you both?
Oh, we are great, and we are excited to have you on because you're a very special guest. And the reason we are featuring you today is because it's Listener Appreciation Day that Johnny and I just thought up. Yes, and we could not think of a better first guest than you because found out that you listened to my very first show, which that means the world to me, and that was my first chakra cleanse. And I had sent out, I think, to you personally, because you've known me for quite a long time, and you've been in my life as a special person for a long time. And I sent you specifically a link to that show. You listened to it, and you've been a regular listener since then, which is how many months since April? How many months is that?
Oh, it's almost close to a year.
Yes.
Just
and so you are a loyal listener, and that means the world to us at Life, Laughter, Happiness. So that's all I wanted to add, Johnny. So now we can go into who is Paul Fowler, because you are a quite interesting person. Your main job, position, career was in the Coast Guard, and you were active from 1975 to 1997, like Johnny said. And so tell us where you're living now.
Right now, I'm living in St. Robert, Missouri, which is near Waynesville and Fort Leonard Wood. So it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. That's why they call it Fort Lost in the Woods.
Oh, cute. I know. There's a little nickname to towns. That's funny. My dad used to live in Ketchikan, Alaska, and we would call it Catch Me If You Can. It's so cute to have little nicknames for your town. That's cool.
I remember Ketchikan.
So you must be really happy about the football team, Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
50 years.
So
50-year drought.
Wow. So congratulations, because I know you love football. You were a football coach for a while, weren't you?
I coached a grade school football teams for a couple of years.
Oh, that's
Dixon
nice.
Bulldogs. The Dixon Bulldogs.
Oh, the Bulldogs. So you give back to your community, and so that's nice. So let me talk a little bit about your Coast Guard background.
Sure.
You were an Aviation Structural Mechanic, SAR Aircrewman, a Rescue Hoist Operator, and Dropmaster. And some of your tours were in CGAS Kodiak, Elizabeth City, Los Angeles, May, Miami, and Cape Cod. So, wow. So
those 6 air stations.
Okay, when you were in the Coast Guard, what were the things that stood out to you most? Were there any exciting adventures, or were there any dangerous missions at all? Can you give us a little idea of what it was like being in the Coast Guard?
In 22 years, there's a few things that happened. I've been through 3 hurricanes, a number of rescues, and just odds and ends, because things do not happen the way you would expect. You never know what's going to happen from one day to the next. You show up for work 9 times out of 10, it's a boring day. But that 10th day, something comes up.
Tell us about one of your rescue missions.
Well, it's a lot of them were what they call medevacs, and probably the one that came to my mind the other day just happened to be in California. It was actually a medevac. We had an accident on Catalina Island. I know you're going to be familiar with this area. We had I think she was a 14 or 15-year-old girl was in a pickup truck accident on Catalina, and we had to fly her from Catalina to Torrance Memorial Hospital. This was probably early to I'd say maybe 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, so it's starting to get dark. And what made it so difficult was the fact that I guess her brother was involved in this. And after the accident, we were trying to get her and the medical team into the helicopter. He decided he wanted to go with us. So he snuck into the back of the helicopter.
How did he sneak in? Nobody noticed?
I'm sorry? We were talking to the medical team. Nobody saw him. Nobody saw him get into the door or climb into the back of the plane. Because I was busy talking with the medical team. We were trying to stabilize the patient, and the other crewmen were up front because, the helicopter was still running. We wanted to get out of there really quick. So I just happened to see him in the back. We're trying to talk him out of the plane, saying, no, you can't go with us. We'll be too heavy. It's hard to explain to a 17-year-old person that a helicopter can't carry everything.
Was he frantic?
I'm sorry?
Was he frantic? Was he begging to go?
Well, at first he was. The first time we tried to get in, we saw him, we stopped him, we told him, no, you can't come with us. And he was pretty upset. So when we weren't looking is when he snuck into the back.
Okay, so he knew he wasn't supposed to go, so he's sneaking in.
He knew he wasn't
really
supposed
dangerous.
to go. He knew he wasn't supposed to go. And it's a good thing we found him because we wouldn't have gotten off the ground. Or if we had, we probably could have lost control. Yep.
Oh, that's so dangerous.
Yeah, if he'd stayed back in the tail, we could have lost control on takeoff. So.
Okay, so wow, so thank goodness. And then was that hindering her care? How badly was she injured?
That's the only thing I don't like about that job is a lot of times when we do these medevacs, we take them to the hospital. A lot of times we don't know what the final outcome is going to be. So I don't know if she ever survived. I'd hope so. But
was she
pretty
badly hurt? Was she really hurt?
Yes, she was hurt very badly.
Oh, no. Oh. Gosh, that is hard to not really know if the person ever was okay or not.
Yeah, and things like that, you don't forget. I'm sorry?
Johnny was asking something.
How come they don't tell you?
Well, because we don't have a need to know. We're not family. So
Could you call the hospital and find out? Could you find out if you really felt close to that person?
It would be very difficult because they don't want to release information to non-family.
So Catalina is a pretty small island, very near to where I live down here in Orange County. So, did they not have the proper facilities to take care of her at the hospital there?
Not on Catalina. You got to remember, this was 1983.
Oh.
So it's not the same. In fact, to me, nothing in South California is the same as it was when I was there.
Well, that's something to really find out about before you move to these little places, is the care in case there's an emergency. But so that's exciting. So you did rescue missions, and what were some of the other things that you did besides rescuing people?
Well, we actually have a lot of duties. We have law enforcement as one, which is both illegal aliens and smuggling. Probably the easiest way to put it. And I would say Miami is probably the biggest place for that.
Yes.
because you're so close to the islands. You're very close to Cuba, Jamaica, all the islands down there. I'm sorry?
Would you be in a boat or back in the helicopter for that kind of thing, or would you find them on the boat?
Well, we would deploy aboard cutters, but my particular field, we'd be in the helicopter, but we'd be deployed on the ships, so we'd be out for a few weeks at a time. That was my whole sea experience.
How did you deal with being in small little towns sometimes where, like the one you live in now, where there's not a lot, not a big city? Do you get lonely, or do you have a good group of friends around you that you hang with?
Not really. Well, I'm not all that outgoing to begin with, but I mean, I get by, I have my hobbies, and St. Louis is 2 hours away, not going one way. Springfield is about an hour and a half going the other way. We have Jefferson City and Columbia. So it's not like we're out in the middle of nowhere. There are things to do, like occasionally I'd like to go up to the zoo in St. Louis, or maybe go to a ball game.
Okay. And also you are quite creative. Are you, well, we know. I'm just asking you this for the listeners about your songwriting. So you write your own songs, and you actually did write an entry song for our show, which we do play. Yes, we do play on occasion, depending on what show it is. So thank you. We thank you for that. Plus, we did give you a shout out. Go ahead, Johnny.
Have you written?
Well, the ones that I have actually registered is probably about 10 or 12. And, of course, this goes over the period of a lot of years because I have so many other things that I do. I don't get to sit down as often as I used to when I was younger.
What do you do now? You're retired right now, so you still don't have a lot of time?
Well, I have different hobbies. Okay, I don't do some of the things that I used to do when I was younger, which I think you mentioned, because when I was young, I used to do some stage plays.
Oh, wow.
I miss. They were fun. I miss those.
Is there a small theater in your town that you can maybe get into a theater group?
Well, there is here in Waynesville, but I just don't have the time to do it anymore. Because between when I get up from my job, I come home.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. What is your job now that you're retired? Now you have another job?
Yes, I work in food services for the U.S. Army.
Okay, which you have to get up very early for at 3:30 every morning.
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for staying up to be on our show tonight. We know you're sacrificing your bedtime for us.
No,
so
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay, so tell us, Johnny, and I want to know, since you're such a regular listener from, not before me, because you knew me, so that you started listening. April 3rd was my first chakra day with the show when Life, Laughter, Happiness contacted me and wanted to give me a chakra cleanse. You were there to listen to that. So, wow. So what do you think about our show? Describe what our show does for you.
Well, I mean, I just enjoyed listening to it. I mean, I have all the episodes. I even went back to before that and downloaded. I think I started Johnny's first show in 2007, was it, I believe? And I got them all through there. It's 340-something shows, I think. Probably more now. I put them all on a flash drive so I can listen to them whenever I want.
Great. Also, you can listen to them whenever you want on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, but if I don't have my computer with me, I can put the flash drive in the car. They're all MP3s, so they're MP3s, so I can do it that way.
That's good. And you're very thoughtful, too, because you're a loyal person, not just with listening to our show, but you always remember Christmases, and you always send a little something for my daughter, too, which I so much appreciate. This year we got from you the special Barbie doll. And do you know that, I mean, you were thinking more of Priscilla, but really I was thinking, oh, I like this for myself because, do you know, I've been collecting special edition Barbie dolls for years, probably for 20 years now.
Yeah, I know you collected them. That's why you got the Day of the Dead Barbie.
Yeah, that one was really cool. That was for Halloween. But the Christmas Barbie, that was really pretty, too. That was the limited edition Barbie.
Yeah, you say that it's actually kind of funny because I want to say something about Barbie. You know, I was thinking that Barbie, you know, Barbie would like Barbie because of this, because people oftentimes named her Barbie. But I told you, this is something I've associated with Barbara, is the movie Something About Mary.
Huh.
That she's Mary from Something About Mary, don't you think?
Have you seen that?
No.
You haven't seen that movie, Paul?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you will love that, and then you'll know what Johnny's talking about, because the character in that movie was like how he sees me. So please, you've got to go check that out, because it's a good compliment. It's a really nice character, a character that's kind to everybody and always smiling and happy. And so I just think it's a huge compliment that Johnny says that I am like Something About Mary, that Mary is a character in that movie. Right,
usually
Johnny?
I'll usually see a movie that gets recommended.
Okay, yes, you do. And thank you. And over the years, you've sent some really great movies for Priscilla, you know, really nice movies, Christmas movies, things like that. He's a very thoughtful person.
No, I think the last one wasn't a Polar Express, because I thought you would like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have that. We loved that. That was really good. So, wow, so good. Please do watch the Something About Mary so you know what Johnny's talking about.
Okay. I will definitely check into that.
Thank you. Okay, great. So what else do you do now for fun? What's there to do where you live? Do you go fishing?
We do fish. I haven't fished in years, but I used to go up to a pond and catch catfish, which are actually pretty good. I think it seems like a lot of people don't want to eat catfish because they figure, well, they're bottom feeders. But the worst bottom feeders are some people.
No, I like the catfish. That's good. I mean, I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and they always had that on the menu.
Yeah, oh, yeah. They do around here, too.
Nothing weird about that. I think catfish are normal.
You just have to know how to fix it.
Do you know how to fix it?
No, what I do is I flay it, soak it in milk overnight to get kind of the fishy flavor out of it, and then you bread it, fry it, and it's good. Yes, I can
good. Oh, you're a cook too?
Yeah, I can cook.
Wow, that's good. Okay, great. Well, what do you like about our show?
It's kind of hard to put her on any one thing. There's a lot of variety in there, which is, you had some interesting guests on.
What guests stood out to you?
Sorry, Johnny?
Well, I was just saying, I like that you said that about the variety. I mean, it's always been, from day one, you know, the question has always been, I wanted it to be a show where it was open to anybody or as many different people as I could. And I wanted it to be a place where, you know, it was, people were not sent away, if you get my drift. And, I mean, I hope that you feel like that, you appreciate that when you listen to our show. Am I right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty good way of putting it, I suppose. I remember when I listened to the older ones, all the different people you'd have come on, and it wasn't always the same thing every time, which is nice. That's a variety.
Because what happens is, and I think that, it's good to have, like, for example, Barbara. I feel like Barbara is really listening to you. Don't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the first time she had her chakra cleansed, I mean, she got to talk about it, or about things, and that normally she wouldn't be able to talk about with any other interview, because I don't know if an interviewer would want to sit there and talk about it. It's like, those aren't the topics that would come up. If that
like
makes
the
any
chakra
sense.
cleanse. The chakra cleanse is an interesting thing. I mean, I certainly found it interesting. I hadn't heard about it in ages. It's been a long time since I've done anything other than I've had an interest in astrology since the 1980s.
I've always found it.
When is your birthday?
No, my birthday? Well, gee, pick a day. I always joke about that because I was born near midnight. So it depends on your time zone.
Oh, that's funny. Well, what was your time zone during your birthday? We'll go with that one.
Again, it depends because it was really strange. I was born in Bloomington, Indiana, which is right on the Eastern Central time zone. And we used November 1st. But if you wanted to go in the Eastern time zone, it would have been the 2nd. So like I say, take your pick. They recorded the time in Central Standard Time, which was 11:08 p.m. But it was also technically in Eastern Daylight Time. So it would have been 12:08. So we always go with the 1st, but it's right there. And when I figure out my chart, as long as I know what the time zone is, how many hours, it doesn't matter what the actual date is.
Has that been a problem when you have had readings?
No. We use the 1st because that's what's on my birth certificate. It's just when I look at an actual horoscope, then you have to have an accurate time.
I think it's November 2nd. You know why? You know why?
Why?
I never remember birthdays that are on any birthdays of anybody that are on the 1st because the month, it puts in my mind, November, okay, that person's they're a November birthday. Oh, well, oops, I missed it because it was the 1st. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I am not kidding. It's really like that with me. Like my mom's is October 31st, Halloween, and her husband is the 1st. And I always forget. I could send both cards at the same time, but then I'm like, he's not till November. Oh, my goodness, the day after hers. I am not kidding. That's what happens.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, because you told somebody that I never remember your birthday, and that's the reason. That is the reason right there. Now I know.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
So I'm going to put it down as the 2nd, just for Barbara. Barbara is going to say your birthday is November 2nd, okay?
Okay, that works because it wouldn't be wrong.
You need to change your birth certificate.
Right. I'll write the Bureau of Vital Statistics in Indiana and say, hey, guess what? The doctor made a mistake.
Yeah. Okay, so that is interesting, though. But you really do I read your chart. You sent this to me in an email that somebody did years ago. And then recently have? Tell us you recently had your chart read again by one of our specialists, our psychic medium counselors. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I don't remember that. I remember I sent the one that you heard was done by Magi Helena, who I had been learning a new system from for a few years ago. I was hoping I could get her to come on the show. And I don't think anything happened with that because I know I got hold of her and she had expressed some interest in it, but that was about as far as it went.
Do you know her? Johnny knows psychic. I don't know.
I gave Johnny the contact information. In fact, she's out in California.
Is she one of the 100 top? Is she one of the 100 top psychics? Is she one of the 100 top psychics?
No, she's not. She's not one of the 100 top psychics, but she was the #1 astrologer in Southern California.
Oh, astrologer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what
then didn't you have a reading by one of ours? Didn't you have a reading by one of ours that was very thorough?
No, I didn't. Because this is the first time I've actually called in. This is the first time I've actually called in.
Yeah, but did you have a reading by one of our psychic counselors, like you contacted them yourself separately?
I didn't contact anybody separately. I was referred to.
Oh.
I mean, I was contacted, not the other way around. And that had
that's interesting. Right, Johnny?
Well, that whole thing had to do with some music that I wrote.
Oh.
And that's why they were...
Oh, no, I thought that you did have a reading by Vanessa.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. I'm sorry.
I just thought, how could you forget? Could you forget that?
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me, because it should have clicked because she was just on.
Yeah.
That should have clicked.
Isn't she thorough? She did a reading for me, and she is just so scientific and just meticulous about.
I call her.
I mean, when she takes something on.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
I said I tease her because she sounds like a doctor when she talks to you. You know, like you're sitting in a chair and she's got a medical chart and she laughs her head off. Like, okay, I did your reading and you're up to a 700 from a 400. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I remember that one now.
Yeah, you got 2 soul contracts. I was able to wipe both of them out. Okay, and you know, it's
very thorough. It's very serious. I mean, it's a lot that goes into these things. They don't just like wing it. We have the best ones here for you.
Yeah, I remember that because that was an email that I let you read.
Oh, we are so into just making sure people have the proper care when we do have psychic nights. But we're a show that showcases everything. People of all different walks of life, all different careers, all different nationalities.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're very open to having people on because I feel like every single person has an interesting story to tell. Of course they do. You know, they're a human being. They have a life. So that's what Johnny and I strive for, is to showcase a lot of different people and then see how they tick. So we're just going to try to get back into your mind a little bit. We're finding out, you know, a little bit about you, but we want to know what makes you tick. What makes you tick, though? I mean, you're a father, right? Tell us a little bit about, okay, let's start off with your upbringing. Where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? And what were your parents like?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I'm originally from Indiana, from Bloomington. My dad taught college music there, and we stayed there. I don't even remember really when we moved. We moved from Bloomington. We moved to Long Island, New York, which is the first place I remember with any great detail. Remember a lot of things about Long Island.
Okay, great. When you were really young, you got to move to New York City. How exciting.
Yeah, well, we tried to avoid the city. We stayed on the island when we weren't going to my grandparents' farm.
Wow. Okay. And were your parents together? Still together?
Well, they're both deceased now.
Okay. Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, my dad passed away just a few years ago. My mom was about 9 years ago. She passed away. And then, of course, it really got great when I lost my sister. That was last year, I believe.
I know. That's really so hard.
Yeah, we couldn't even go home for the funeral because it was tough. Yeah. But I had 3 sisters. And
oh, wow. Like Johnny's surrounded with sisters, too. Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun growing up with sisters?
What order are you? What order are you and your sister? Are you and both your sisters?
I'm the second. I'm number 2. My older sister,
like
she's
Johnny.
still in Pennsylvania. Yeah, she's still in Pennsylvania.
I'm second youngest. You're second oldest?
I'm second oldest.
Okay.
Oh.
And my younger sister
is
the one that I lost. She was the one who used to work in Washington.
Oh, I remember that. That was very sad.
Well, you remember the show you did about 9/11?
Yes.
And she worked at the Pentagon at that time.
Yes, I remember you told me. Wow. That was a scary time for her.
Yeah, the day that happened, I had no idea what happened to her. Nobody knew where she was.
For how long?
Most of the day. We finally found out that evening, okay, well, she got out. I mean, she had slight injuries, but she was okay, which was the important thing.
Wow, but injured during that is something, wow.
Well, what we didn't know was that she worked in the Navy wing. Okay, her whole career was with the Navy. She was a civilian worker, but she spent her whole career working with the Navy, except for the last few years. But the Navy wing was the one that got hit. And we found out we found out later the next day that the plane that hit the Pentagon went in under her office.
Wow. Under.
So we were very, very concerned. Yeah, well, she was very fortunate, and this is why I tease the Marines all the time. I tease them mercilessly, but I had the greatest respect for them because it was a Marine colonel who pulled her out, who got her out of the building.
Oh, wow.
You know, I want to say something because I have a question about this. You know,
Sure.
I noticed that there is a branch of the military called the Air Force that is often
the Zoomies? The Airheads?
ridiculed. That I've heard that people make fun of them, you know, because, and I said, why? I was the Marine one time, why do people make fun of the Air Force? And he goes, well, the Air Force don't see combat. But see, this is a thing that I think a lot of people forget, and I'm not okay. If we declare war in a foreign country, you want to decrease casualties. So it would make sense in certain circumstances to go with the airstrikes first. You know, bringing the airplane.
I think the thing is, it's really misunderstood. The Air Force, yes, they see a lot of combat. It's also the youngest service. It's only been around since 1947. So
okay.
We tease all the services. I mean, every service teases the other ones. We used to call the Marine Corps Uncle Sam's Uncle Sam's misguided children. USMC.
But I mean,
but the Coast Guard is Uncle Sam's confused group.
Well, it's just that you know, is it all in good fun, or is it just?
Yes, it is.
Because I mean, seriously,
yes,
when you really think about it, you wouldn't dismantle the Air Force. Obviously, it serves a purpose. I mean, you know, it's there to. Honestly, if it weren't for the Air Force, a lot of you guys, a lot of other Marines, and all those people would probably be going home in coffins. Not for the Air Force, right?
But this is also a very recent thing. If you stop and think about it, as I said, the Air Force is actually the newest of the armed forces, if you don't count the Space Corps, which I still laugh at.
Oh no!
But the Air Force has only been in existence since 1947. Before that, it was part of the Army.
Okay.
I can't wait till we have the Space Corps. I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, they're all going to be flying their TIE fighters and X-Wings, and we joke about stuff like that all the time. But yeah,
okay,
maybe
Paul,
there will be a USS Enterprise one day.
I know that there's little funny sayings about the other, what do you call them? Like you have, the special forces, like the Green Beret and
do you make fun of them
too? You do.
We don't really get to
and
make
it's
fun of
Navy
Green Berets
SEALs.
so much because now everybody has berets.
Oh.
And actually, another
fashionable.
thing that's another thing that, in my opinion, because I've often wondered. The reason I say this about the various armed forces, having this purpose is because it seems to me there's something called false valor, and it seems that a lot of people do is they pretend to be a SEAL. Now, in my opinion, I think being a Navy SEAL would not be that much fun. I mean, because for one thing, everything you do, you can't talk about. I mean, you come home and you say, well, what'd you do?
Yeah.
They were shooting at me.
Yeah. It's sad that people seem to think it's so great to pretend there's something they're not. SEALs as an example.
What's wrong? What's wrong? I mean, like, that's one thing I can't figure out. I mean, what's wrong with saying you're in the Coast Guard or saying you're a SEAL? Saying you're in the Coast Guard or saying you're Air Force.
If you really are, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the ones who have never done it but say they are. They're the ones that we have the problem with. If you've actually been in the Coast Guard, like I've been in for 22 years, my dad was in the Army, my father-in-law was a command sergeant major in the Army, there's nothing wrong with saying you did that. I mean, I'm proud of the 22 years I spent.
Well, of course.
If I had my way, I would have stayed longer, but Washington had other ideas at the time. Actually, it was the reason I retired was the Coast Guard changed its policy after Congress started instituting these money-saving measures by saying, well, you have to be able to advance to a specific pay grade in a certain amount of time in order to stay in.
Now,
but
I'm curious.
That's not something.
I'm curious about something. Would you be able to tell, like, someone was committing false valor or not? Like, if you saw them wearing a uniform, what would not look right on a uniform? Like, what would you do? Just curious. Would you be able to tell? Say you're in a restaurant and say you saw someone wearing a uniform that didn't look right. I mean, what would you look for?
I wouldn't say anything, but I could. It depends on the uniform because each one is different. But there are probably telltale signs if somebody doesn't know how to wear the uniform properly. I mean, if you're familiar with them, you can see it. If you're not familiar with it, it's the awe of seeing it. A lot of times, could probably fool people who are not familiar with it.
In other words, the uniform is going to look a certain way. It seems kind of odd that a person in the Coast Guard would not wear the uniform a certain way, that it would look kind of strange.
Right. Well, another thing, too, though, is say you're going into a restaurant, we normally wouldn't go in uniform.
Yeah.
Okay. We would normally,
Why?
if we're not on duty, chances are we wouldn't be in uniform. There are very few exceptions to that I can remember.
Are you not supposed to wear it when you go to dinner?
I'm sorry? Only if it's like formal.
Are you not supposed to?
Well, it's not that you're not supposed to. It's you don't have to, and most people aren't going to bother with it. They'll go out in civilian clothes.
I guess in a way it's kind of like saying like somebody being a brain surgeon going to McDonald's wearing medical garb. That's just not, you wouldn't see that, you know.
Yeah, you don't see them wearing scrubs into a fast food joint.
Oh, but they will if they want you to think that they're a doctor. They'll wear their scrubs everywhere.
Yeah.
I knew somebody like that. Oh, they had to wear those scrubs, making sure everybody knew they were a doctor.
Yeah,
they
look good in white. But that's
or
that's,
green
that's
scrubs, green.
Well, yeah,
green.
I'm just
the
saying
green
a lot of
scrubs
doctors,
with their clogs.
Or
if they're wearing scrubs outside, there's something seriously wrong.
Also, another good example, Barbara, would be a woman claiming to be a Playboy Playmate, but you can't get in depending on the month of the year. That would be,
that would be a very telltale sign.
I think Barbara could probably see through a woman like that 20 miles away. Months and year. I'm a Playboy Playmate months and year.
No, somebody did that on our show, Johnny. I put out the mailing for our show about Alexis Vogel, who passed away, the makeup artist, and I had 8 playmates on there, and one of them, I know Sandra Taylor wasn't, but I already knew that, and so that's why I also introduced them as Playboy models. But there was another one that never corrected me. I won't say her name, but she never corrected me about being a Playboy playmate, and I thought she was one like way before me that I just didn't know, very well. And then I had looked afterwards. She was not a Playboy playmate, but she did not ever correct me.
Okay, telltale.
She got by. She got through. Can you believe that?
But actually, I did some research on this. This is what's funny. Okay, Paul, which do you think is rarer, to be a Navy SEAL or a Playboy playmate?
Oh goodness, that's kind of harder because the SEALs cover a much broader area. They don't have one per month. But there would be more SEALs.
Right. So in other words, Barbara's actually you're more likely to run into a SEAL than you are into a Barbara. I mean, that's the main thing. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
And SEALs are looked at as elite. SEALs are looked at as very, very rare. It's like if you were to meet someone who's like, I've heard some people say that Jesse Ventura was not a SEAL. That's what I've heard.
I don't know about that, but it's quite possibly was.
I can tell. I think he was, and the only reason I say that is there's a guy
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, the reason. See, this is actually what they say. Okay, they say that he was, but when he was a SEAL, it didn't mean it's not as big a deal as it was when he was a SEAL as it is now. See, there's a lot of this is what they said. The reason I say that is there's a guy who what he does is he goes cross country to country, and he literally approaches people who have false valor, who committed false valor, especially people who claim to be SEALs. And he says, well, as far as Jesse Ventura being a SEAL, yeah, I mean, I think he is. It's just that it doesn't mean the same thing now. The training that he went through is not to the level of what a SEAL would have to do now, but it's pretty intense. That's what I've heard.
That's another thing that I've noticed over the years. Well, of course, way back when the SEALs, they didn't talk about it. They didn't get all the publicity that the media has to get into everything now. The media just has to bring everything out. They didn't do a lot of that back then. That's why a lot of people didn't know about the Coast Guard back in the 60s. I mean, I wrote a paper. This is not a tangent, but this is something that being in the military, you understand. I wrote a paper in college where we had to create a moral dilemma. And what happened was that the dilemma that I wanted to create had something to do with I wanted to create a moral dilemma that would give a pro-choicer a nightmare. I mean, a pro-lifer a nightmare. And the situation that I created is I had a senator who was pro-life and against negotiating with terrorists to be kidnapped by a bunch of pregnant terrorists. Okay? Now, you're laughing, and whenever I post that... Now, yes, it would make a great movie, but whenever I pose that scenario to a pro-lifer, they say, well, that's ridiculous. However, maybe it might be satirical, but let me say something, okay? And this is funny. Unfortunately, I wrote this. It seems like I wrote this paper before this happened, but okay. Here's what we know. Where did we find Bin Laden? We found him in his compound, right? Now, here's what we know about Bin Laden. Bin Laden had a lot of wives, right? Yeah.
Why do some people just have tons and tons of wives? Well, they do it because they want to make sure they have lots of children, right? Which means that probably one of his wives was pregnant. Now, if memory serves me right, right. So my guess is when we went into that compound with SEALs, okay? And I will bet you that in that compound, if memory serves me right, there was a pregnant woman in there. Now, you cannot.
I believe you're right.
Right, which means, now here's what Obama could not, if Obama had did this, it would have been a disaster. If Obama had said, okay, well, gee, if we go in there and there's a pregnant woman, which means there should be a line of gunfire, which means that if we shoot her, we'll be committing abortion, that's not going to go over real well with pro-life. I tell you what, let me pull the press conference and we'll just tell everybody where we found Bin Laden. That would never work because by the time we moved in, Bin Laden would move. So they move in, and then they basically, and I know that my scenario ignites a chuckle, but it's not unrealistic to assume that there's probably a Navy SEAL who's come into contact with a pregnant woman somewhere, especially if you're trying to shoot down somebody like Osama bin Laden who probably has a lot of wives.
And
so
the fact that when you go in, you have no idea. As I said, when you go in, you have no idea what's there.
So I know it ignites laughter, but it's not, the concept is not so far-fetched. It's really not, it's not so far, it makes you wonder, like, what would you do? I mean, you know, you're in this room, you have this pregnant woman who basically is about ready to, you know, attack you, and the president cannot just back down every time there's a pregnant woman holding a gun. Otherwise, Saddam Hussein would just round up all the pregnant Iraqi women, and then they would stop us from bombing them. So,
yeah,
you can't.
That's not a scenario that a lot of people would think of. It's interesting though, and you don't really know until you're faced with that particular dilemma exactly what would be what you would do.
Yeah,
so
it's
my interesting.
Was far-fetched. There's no pregnant terrorists, but there were definitely some pregnant human guards and human shields, and that's the thing that gets me is that, you know, the scenario is not that far out. I mean, the scenario with the pregnant woman and Uzi is not far out. In fact, it's probably
in the Middle East, no, it's not. Yeah, in the Middle East, no, it's not.
I even named them in the paper. I called them Kamikaze Women with Child.
Johnny's good. He's very creative.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, they would say, "Oh, that'll never happen." No, it's not to that level, but it's not that far off. Don't you agree? I mean, it's not that ridiculous.
It's not impossible. No. And as I say, in the Middle East, things are a lot different than they are here. And I'll tell you something about the Middle East that looking back on 9/11 and how that all went down and who was responsible. Okay, that's everybody has this thing about Middle Eastern people now, or at least that's how it seems. But when I was going through my initial class in 1975, 1976 for the Coast Guard, I was learning my job. We had 14 Iranians in our class, because at that time we were still friends with Iran. We had the Shah was still in power. This is before the Ayatollahs came about. And I knew these 14 Iranian soldiers. And I'll tell you what, sometimes they seem like they're dumb as a box of rocks, but they're the nicest people. I have never had anything against the people. And I still don't, even after 9/11. But higher up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I try to be tolerant of everybody. I have friends who, believe it or not, are Russian. The people are great. It's the ideologies that cause problems. And it's not just there, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
I agree. I have a lot of Russian friends. I mean, it's not that one person that we should be against.
Right.
It's the higher up ones that you're talking about. They're individuals that have this large group following them. Doesn't mean the ones that are around us here in the United States are bad. Yes, that's a very good thing to point out.
It's kind of like the same in any country, really, though. The people are really what it's all about.
That's right.
In the world we live in today, it's really tough.
Okay, I know. But during the whole time you were working, you managed to find time to start a family. And I know you have a daughter. Tell us a little bit about when you started your family and how that was for you. I mean, I know you're a very proud father.
Actually, I have 2 and 2.
Oh, you do? Tell us about your children.
Well, let's see. My oldest, she's a Florida baby. We tease her about that because she spent most of her time. She's a Florida baby.
Florida baby. Okay.
That's what we call her. Yeah. Yeah, and she is the only one of the 4 who actually had to endure a hurricane. We were down in Florida for Hurricane Andrew. So I remember that quite vividly.
I remember that. I was always just getting out of Florida right before the hurricane started because that's where I would compete for the U.S. title in ballroom dancing. And I remember it was hurricane season. We would just always get out at the nick of time. So I do remember that. Wow. So that was, how old was she during that time?
Oh, she was, 18 months, not quite 2 years. Hurricane Andrew came through in August, as I recall, and she was born in January the year before. So she spent the whole storm in bed with us.
So she doesn't remember.
She's not going to remember. She doesn't remember very much of anything about Florida. She doesn't remember very much of Massachusetts, for that matter, when we were up in Cape Cod, which is where the 2 middle ones decided to make their appearance.
Okay.
And they're only like about 13 months apart, I'd say. 'Cause one's October, one's November.
How old are they now?
Well, let's see. My oldest was 1991. In fact, he just had a birthday not too long ago, January. And then the baby, he'll be turning 20. 20 or 21. I think 21 in May. And he just got back from overseas.
Oh, that's nice.
He of the 4.
Okay, so a military family. It's just kind of your dad was military, you were, your sister, now your son.
I'm curious.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one of our kids, between my sister and myself. I was the only one who was actually in the military. My younger sister, the one who just passed away, she worked for the Navy, and then she moved her way up. She moved her way up. She started out in Philadelphia, working in naval aviation. She was a part specialist for A6 intruders, and then she started working in the Pentagon. She was down there up until shortly after 9/11, and for quite a while she couldn't even go back to work.
Oh, wow.
She
got injured, and plus emotionally.
Yeah, she did not feel comfortable going back to work for a long time after that. And then she finished her tour working for the government, not in the Pentagon, but in the White House.
You were very proud of her. I know that was very hard to lose her. Wow. Okay, so that's wonderful that you've raised children and you are a wonderful brother, because I do remember that you were really by her side through all of her, ailments, and then at the end of her life, you were such a good brother to her.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I couldn't be there at the end because there was just no way to get away from here. But I remember a lot of things. I will never forget my sister because of all the things that we went through growing up. She's the one who put the scar on my head.
Scar on your head, what's that mean?
Well, back when we were really young, I think we were still living on Long Island, which is why I still remember it, but I was rather young at the time. You remember the old plastic popcorn poppers? They had the plastic dome across them, and you'd run across the floor, and these little balls would be popped up against them. I think you're close enough to my age. You remember these things, all the old toys.
I think so. Yeah.
So we had a disagreement one time. I forget what it was. I think I had something to her. She wanted it back, and being stubborn, I held on to it. And she decided she was going to take batteries and throw away, and she popped me across the head with that popcorn popper with the plastic end of it. So I still have the scar from that.
Oh no, it was bad.
Yeah,
I know that rivalry can be very intense sometimes. I had a brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but she and I were so close. She and I were so close in age. I think it was 14 months apart, the two of us. So we were very close in age, but we were also close. You know, you have the rivalry, but you're also close.
Yes.
And
mine
in fact,
too.
with my sister, when she went to college, she had a chance to go to Europe with a college class, and she couldn't afford it. So, if I recall, my mom told me about this, that she had this opportunity to go, and she just couldn't afford it. And, of course, I was up in Alaska at the time. But I said, okay, well, I'll see what I can do. I went to the credit union. I borrowed money. I sent it to her so that she could go. And she had a wonderful time, from what I understand.
Oh, I bet she just was so thankful to you, the big brother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we would look after each other through the years.
Well, how do you stay really spiritually balanced? That is a question that I always ask our guests at the end to tell us, like, what you do, because you work a lot of hours, you have seen a lot of things, and tough things that could maybe stay in your mind and haunt you. How do you stay balanced?
I just keep things in my heart. Okay, I used
how
to go
does that work?
To church. Actually, it works pretty good. I try to keep an open mind on a lot of things. Of course, you know, people being people, they're always going to fall from grace, as it were. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
And I'm certainly no exception to that. But I think in the years since I retired and started looking into the astrology thing again, because like I said, I started this in the 80s, and it was actually somebody who I was working with in New Jersey who got me back into it. Because my sister dabbled with it a little bit when we were growing up. But this person that I'm talking about was a pilot, and he was close to my age, too. So we got to be friends. But she was curious about it, and so I thought, well, my sister used to be into it. Let me take a look and see how this works. And so over the years, I've been gradually learning things. And there's a lot to it, I found out. And there's a lot of different ways of doing things. And the last one I've been studying is the Magi astrology, which is rather in-depth, but it's different from what most people think of. Okay, it doesn't deal so much with the signs as it does with the geometry. Let me see if I can explain it. They do have a chart. It has 12 houses, but the houses do not have cusps. They don't use an ascendant per se as a cusp. They just have 12 equal spaces, and where they fall, they make geometric patterns, and that's what they look at.
You study this and that, okay, but what about every day? So you study this, and that's fun, but how do you keep yourself, like, healthy in the mind, body, spirit? Do you do yoga, exercise, walk, pray?
I don't do any of that. Mostly what I'll do is if I'm not sitting down building a model airplane or a model boat or something like that, which is one of my hobbies from when I was a kid, I'll sit at the computer and I'll either research things or maybe I'll pull up one of my music programs and mess around with that.
Did you get your love from your music? Because I listened to your earlier comment about your dad being in music? Was he a music teacher?
Actually, he was. He was one of the individuals who was, he had 2 degrees that he got, and they were so different from each other. He had a degree in music, okay, and he did teach college music at the University of Indiana, and he taught high school music in Rochester, New York, after he got laid off from another job. But he also had a degree in aeronautical engineering. So he, when we lived in St. Louis, he worked for McDonnell on Skylab as a quality assurance engineer. So he was in the aerospace bit. And I think that's where I got a lot of my interests from.
Did you ever play an instrument?
Yes, I don't anymore because my hands are old now, and I can't play as well as I used to. But I played guitar, bass, guitar, piano.
Guitar. Oh, piano
I played the guitar, played the bass guitar, piano. Mostly self-taught, but I just enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Well, that is great that you love music. It is a wonderful outlet. That does help you spiritually just to listen to music and wind you down from your day. And that is wonderful. And so, and also our show keeps you balanced. Have you been learning a lot?
Yeah.
Did you learn anything from our dating and our Valentine's Day tips show?
That one I haven't even listened to yet. And I keep meaning to, and it never get a chance. I haven't listened to that one yet. There's a lot of that I still need to listen to. As I said, I have collected all of these, but you only listen to so much in a day.
That was one of our most popular ones. Yeah, I suggest that one. And we've done 2 so far.
I'll have to dig that one up. But since it's recent enough, it won't be too hard to find. And the way I have them listed on my flash drive and on my laptop is they all go by dates. Okay.
You seem like a numbers person.
Yeah. Well, that way I keep them in order. I use a system we've learned. A lot of people use what they call Julian calendars, Julian dates. And it's basically, it has the years first and then the day of the year. 1 through 365. So no matter where you record, when you put it in the computer program, it's going to go where it's supposed to be. It will always be in order of when it was done.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Yes, we like that. That's why we put our date on all of them. Our date of air date is on all of the shows to make it easy for people.
Right, but I use it as I just use that, though, when I put it in as a Julian date, because that way you know, right off the bat, you know what year it is. Like,
okay, great. This would be,
tonight would be 20054 because it's the 54th day of the year, and it's the year 2020.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Wow, that's interesting, right, Johnny? I've never heard anybody put it in that kind of that order like that way.
Yeah, like the first show that I had that Johnny did, Should It Be Legal? That show, that 07, and then whatever the day was. And it always comes up first.
Well, have you been too shy to call in? Because we have days where we have our callers call in, and I thought, you know what, let's have Paul on because he hasn't called in. I thought maybe you were too shy to call in.
That's a big part of it.
Right.
I'm not all that outgoing, and a big part of that is, I think you know this by now, that I have a lot of Scorpio.
Yes, but I'm not so sure what that means because I'm not the expert on that.
They're a lot more introverted.
Oh. My mother is a Scorpio.
Yeah. See, I have my sun, my moon, Mercury, and Neptune are all in Scorpio, and that's a lot of water. That's a lot of emotion.
Oh.
That's
cool that you know a lot about yourself
a lot of inward,
in that manner.
It's just like with you. You've got some interesting Leo, but a lot of Virgo, too. because you are right on the cusp.
You listened to my birthday show when I had my chart read?
I read your chart a long time ago.
Oh. It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, you gave me your time.
Time of birth.
A long time ago. You gave me your birth time a long time ago. Yeah, yes.
3:52 in the afternoon.
3:52 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
have
a good memory.
A long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like you have a Leo rising. Or no, I'm sorry, you have Sagittarius rising. I've got Leo rising.
It's also very interesting. Well, I want you to feel free to, when we have our psychic counselors on, to be a caller, right, Johnny?
Right.
Well,
if you have a question, call in.
Yeah, maybe I'll be a little less self-conscious. And it's funny because this is the first time I've actually gotten to talk to you in ever. And it's nice.
What is this, 27, 28 years of you knowing me?
Well, the first time I even heard of you was in 1994.
Oh, what was that from?
About that. What, 1994?
How did you come across me in 1994?
Because that's when they had the review from 93.
Oh, okay.
And that year, I don't know if they had done it since then, but they were trying an experiment in 1994 where you could actually call in and vote for whoever you wanted in 1993 as Playmate of the Year.
And you voted each time.
I'm sorry?
And you voted 12 times.
I only voted 12. But what they did was they assigned a phone number to each. They had assigned a phone number to each person. Okay, and you call that number. That's who got the vote. And I could only call yours 12 times because you couldn't go past 12. You could only vote once for each person. Now, if you vote for the same person 12 times, that still counts as your 12, which is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember the recording too.
Really?
You call in. They had a pre-recorded message. As I recall, you had the chance, very astronomical chance, but there was always the possibility that someone would actually be live on the phone when you called.
Yes, and President Donald Trump knew that I really won with the phone-in votes, and it was in the newspaper, and he sent the article to me that I really won in the phone-in votes by the fans, but it's always up to him who decides, and so he went with Anna Nicole Smith, which I understand. They have to sell magazines, and by the time, because she was Miss May 92, and I was Miss December by the time. Wait. No, Donald Trump told me, but Hef did not say, Barbara, you really won in the phone-in votes, but I'm going to go with somebody else. No, he did not tell me that, but Donald Trump did, and he sent me the article of the insider from a Playboy exec so that I really did win in the phone-in votes, but she was chosen because she was already on the billboards all over, very famous by December when I came out. She was already the Guess Jeans girl. So that is what happened. And so then I was like, I always say I got the booby prize because all of my stuff was on the end of her Playmate of the Year video with my Playmate profile video. But it's okay because I got like 10 times the amount of exposure too. So I was fine with it because when I became a Playboy Playmate, I didn't even know a Playmate of the Year thing existed. So I was very happy with Playmate of the Month. Extremely happy with it. But I'm just saying that's a little bit of trivia there for you guys. So it would have been really cool to have done that Playmate of the Year tour, and I would have done a great job. But I did have a wonderful time being a foreign spokesmodel for the company for 7 full years, traveling the world, and that was amazing. So we all have our stories, and that's why I love to have the Playmates on to tell their story, because each one is so completely different and interesting. And somebody who's listening to your story right now can say, hey, I can relate to that guy. Oh, his story is similar to mine. Wow. So maybe they can connect with you. So where would you say that you would send somebody if they want to become your new friend? To Facebook?
Yeah, probably, because I'm not real big on social media, but that's the one I usually look at.
Okay, good.
I don't do the Twitter or any of that stuff.
Okay. Go to Paul Fowler on Facebook, look him up, and drop him a line and tell him how you liked this show. And that would be great, because we just want to, once a month, showcase one of our loyal listeners, and you were our first. So thank you so much, Paul, for coming on and telling your story.
Yeah,
okay. You want to do the shout out?
We get all the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul, we're coming to a close. It was so interesting. We went over 11 minutes, but tell us, what was the last little thing you were going to tell us?
Oh, I was going to say we missed all the juicy stuff. There's not enough time. As far as being the Coast Guard, there's a lot of stuff in 22 years that I don't know if you could get it all in 1 hour if you wanted to cover everything that went down. Well,
gosh, I asked you what were the highlights of your Coast Guard, and you said it was picking up that girl in Catalina Island.
That's one that I will never forget.
Okay,
but
well,
there's other ones too. Yeah,
we are going to.
It's not fun.
Let's have you back. You could call in to talk to a psychic counselor and ask her some questions, and then maybe someday we'll have you back to get into the more juicy, detailed stories that you have for us.
Now that I think about that, might be an interesting question to ask. Did she make it?
Did I make what?
I hope so. No, I said, did she? We were talking about the girl in Catalina. I said, yeah, well, did she make it? That would be an interesting question to find out.
You said that but you said we could never find out.
Well, I mean, we can't call a hospital and say, did this person survive? And I don't even remember her whole name now. I just remember her last name.
Yeah.
That's
okay. Well, probably won't be able to tell. Why don't you look her up on Facebook?
Yeah, so I wish I could remember the first name. I had it written down in my logbook, but that's been missing after like the last 5 or 6 moves.
Well, when was this? How many years ago?
Well, this happened in 1983, I believe it was. It's either 82 or 83.
Might
be
hard.
The Olympics. Yeah,
might be hard to find out.
The Olympics. Yeah, I left LA after the Olympics. So.
Okay, well, try to find out. But you know what is cool is all the social media. My pilot found me. One of the pilots I used to fly with when I was literally 18 and 19 years old for American Eagle.
Was that you're a stewardess?
Found me.
American.
Yes, found me on LinkedIn, and we now are friends again. So we rekindled our friendship. He was a wonderful pilot and a friend. So it would be cool if you found her and said, "Hey, I've always wondered how you were, and I hope that you were okay."
Mm-hmm.
I bet you could find her on Facebook.
I don't know. It's amazing who you can find, though. Remember I told you about a Coast Guard friend of mine who was the one who got me back into the astrology bit. I found her a few years back. She's up in Seattle.
Oh, that's fun. So that's what I love about social media.
Mm-hmm. And she was flying for America.
I love that. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's really good when you meet somebody and then you see them years later and they're doing well. I mean, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about it. So please call in when you find out about her from Catalina Island, who you rescued. We want to know. But right now we're going over, and I don't want the show to cut you off, and I'd like to do the closing and the shout-out now, if that's okay.
Yeah, please, by all means.
Okay, well, I just want to thank you, our guest, Paul Fowler, for coming on, and it was really fun getting to know you and more about you and what makes you tick. And thank you, Johnny, for doing a wonderful job with the show, as usual. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank all of you listeners, and maybe we'll choose you. So drop us a line on Life, Laughter, Happiness website. There's a place there where you can sign up, and All you have to do is write your name and your email address and a comment saying that you would like to be featured on our show, and we will consider you. So that would be great. And don't forget to stop by our Twitter and our Instagram and our Facebook page to find what is coming next. So we love everybody. We love you guys and all of our listeners. And thank you again.
Well, good night.
Thank you again, Paul. And thank you, Johnny. And have a great night, everybody.
You too. Good night.